talking about MPS is being forced to put Milwaukee police officers inside of schools. They have a deadline of February 17th. Less than a month. They need to figure out how they are going to get 25 officers inside of schools. Is this good? Should MPS be forced to put officers in school, be the only school district to be forced to have officers inside the school? 833-212-1017. I see y'all on the talking text line. I'll also see y'all inside of YouTube as well. We'll get to YouTube, but first, Security Mike, you're on Truth to Power here on the award-winning 101.7 The Truth. Welcome in, Security Mike, man. Great to hear from you.
Yeah, great to see that you got your show now, boss, man. I'll be listening to you and calling in.
I appreciate that, brother.
Every now and then, I got a heavy work schedule. But yeah, I worked for MPS back in 2010. I was on the job for like 39 months before whatever happened. So I'm not there anymore. But I don't think having those SRO officers or two officers would hurt. Because back then, their presence helped. But when there were fights, those fights would reach basically riot proportion. And we had a couple of officers that soon they get to the scene, they spray in that pepper spray. And one guy just he just did it so much that they had to get rid of him. Another school I was at, another officer, same thing. So if they don't get officers that have the interests of our kids best in their hearts, then I don't think they should. But I also think that those officers should be placed in schools that's a heavy volume of, kids running the halls, kids, fighting and stuff. And that's mainly the high schools like maybe Beirut, Pulaski, Tech, those schools like that, those schools I were at, always fights. A lot of hall walking with the kids. So we ushering kids out of the building that don't want to go to class, getting them the early parent contacts, early release bus ticket, and get them up out of there. And I think that it could help, but they mainly need to be in those schools that I just referenced. And that's my take on it.
Thank you so much, Security Mike. That's bringing his own personal experience, and that's one thing that I know. Even I worked in MPS as a substitute teacher, also did some summer after-school programs, and you do have to break up some fights, and them fights can grow. They definitely can grow, but I think you made a great point about the fact that pepper spray, that's nothing you want to mess with, having kids being pepper sprayed as young as 14. It might be overly excessive use that they have if you do have them in the school, but 833-212-1017, that is the Truth to Talking text line. Brian, you are on the award-winning 101.7 The Truth. What are your thoughts on this conversation about MPS being told they have to have officers inside the school?
Well, as Joe Clark was saying, lean on me, one apple don't spoil a whole bunch. But what if you have a whole bunch rotten to the core? Yeah, you definitely need police officers in MPS schools.
Oh, wow.
High school.
Why do you believe that?
We don't just have one or two. We don't just have one or two bad rotten to the core. You got a whole bunch of kids in each and every school rotten to the core. So you need police in those schools. Since the pandemic, we're not dealing with the 2010 type of individual children. We are dealing with something I've never seen before. I mean, these kids now, these YNs or whatever you want to call them, these social media high school kids are nothing normal. So you definitely need a strong presence.
Well, what makes
it's good to have them,
Brian? Really quickly, what makes you say that? Because I haven't over the last 4 years, my interactions with students has changed. I used to be able to work in the schools a lot, and when we had a 17-year-old call yesterday who seemed like a good young man. But what makes you say that they've changed so much in that, calling them rotten?
Oh, social media has removed the souls from most of these young kids. Most of these high school, I say between the 12 and up kids, their souls are not there. Their empathy is not there. Their way of discernment is not there. There needs to be some serious repercussions for that. For the people that were 17 and called in and act like a normal person that talked to you the other day, yeah, those kids can't thrive in schools with those kind of rotten kids in them without them being managed accordingly. Some of these kids need to be in boot camps or something like that, where they just basically their brains are being examined and told how to think, because social media is telling these kids to crash out like fake gangsters.
Thank you, Brian. I will say this. I don't agree with a lot of stuff that you said, but I will say this. Social media is tarnishing and hurting our kids. They truly are. Social media is making kids believe in this fake reality of what life is. I dealt with it with my own family. I had a little cousin, still here. Shout out to my boy. But I just remember when he was in high school, he was chasing what he saw on social media, right? He was chasing what other people had. And I told him a lot of that ain't the reality. And also, you 16, 17 years old, right? Like, you have to work for that type of stuff. But in reality, when they may be, showing the car that they got, they ain't showing the credit card debt that they got. They not showing the fact that they might be, they might be shining in a nice car, but they might be living in a bad place, right? They may be behind on bills. And so you have to understand, don't follow trends. Be your own self. Work hard for what you want. Don't try to impress nobody else. Be yourself. 833-212-1017. I got a story to tell. I'll tell it now before we get to, after we get to Al, but I need y'all to lock in, because the story I have to tell was, I had an interaction with a family that had an officer in their family that worked for the sheriff's office here in Milwaukee County, but lived in a completely different county. And it was so interesting about how they viewed us as people. But 833-212-1017, we're going to get into that. But first, Al from Sherman Park, you're on the award-winning 1017 The Truth. What up, Al? I hope your day's going well.
Hey, Kyle. No, it's going as well as it can be. I think this is an opportunity, since they raised our taxes to help fund MPS, and the fact that MPS wasn't even sending in reports, last year to get the money from the state that they need. I think that maybe we should look for some of the money to cover the police officers and take it out of the administration. What is this last, what do you call him? Superintendent getting like $350,000.
I think it was a little bit less than that, but Keith Posley, he was making high 200s.
I'm talking about the new one, and we're not getting the results. They can't turn in reports. They lost the Head Start program.
Yeah, they did. You lose the head. They lost a lot, Al. They've lost a lot.
So what maybe they need to do is cut out some of these conferences that they go to. Maybe do them by Zoom. Cut out the fancy luncheons, and start shaking some of that wasted money out of the administration. Now, I do think that we have a right to set forth standards for some of the officers, such as asking that they be officers that have a history of working with kids, either in the boys' club or extracurricular activities, coaching. Have some of those officers preferred to be in the school, because no one should go to school and get assaulted. Our teachers shouldn't be beat up. Other students shouldn't be beat up.
Well, they're not going to stop teachers from getting beat up, Al. You know that. They're simply there to respond.
But we're now in a state where parents come up and threaten the teachers.
That is
right?
true. A parent beat up a teacher last year.
The parents do that. Yeah, you see the parents do that. The kids think they can get away with anything, right?
I agree. I think it all starts at home, Al. Thank you so much, Al. I appreciate your insight and input. Now, so the story I want to tell is this. So I remember hanging out one time. There was a Hispanic woman with a white guy, and the white guy had family who was in law enforcement. And he was telling a story about how he didn't really feel comfortable with one of his family members in the job that they had. And they served as a Milwaukee County sheriff's officer. They came from a different county. They didn't come from Milwaukee County. They didn't come from the city of Milwaukee as well, but they worked in the sheriff's office. And the thing that shocked me is that this sheriff had no interactions with African Americans throughout his day. He didn't grow up around African Americans. He didn't have friends with African Americans. He didn't go to school with African Americans. He didn't go to restaurants with African Americans. His only interaction with African Americans was what he saw on TV. So whether or not he's watching some wild TV show, or when he was policing African Americans inside of the jail, pulling them over on the streets. And for me, you cannot allow people who don't understand a community, who don't understand an environment, who don't understand a culture to be around impressionable children. Young kids in these high schools are teenagers, and they are seeking to have some type of guidance and some type of role model. So regardless of if a kid does the right thing or a wrong thing, a lot of them look up to somebody. And the badge that these officers wear can play a huge role in the way that they look at police. And then also it could inspire a kid to go and do something good in their life. So this is why I believe it is a non-negotiable. When we talk about who's in our schools, I don't want nobody who live in Greenfield, Greendale, Shorewood, Oak Creek, St. Francis. I don't want nobody who live in those communities that lack diversity to be inside our Milwaukee schools. If you can't live in Milwaukee, then you can't be an officer inside the schools in Milwaukee. That is an absolute non-negotiable. That is our red line that we draw. And that's what MPS needs to do. See, I don't think I'm the smartest person in the world, but dang it, man, I feel like MPS needs to start saying, hey, y'all gonna do what y'all want to do, but this is how we gonna operate. 833-212-1017. That is the Truth Talking text line, but also YouTube. Make sure y'all watch and stream us live on YouTube, 1017 The Truth on YouTube. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. We're trying to get to 4,000. We got to get to 4,000. I might have to talk to the powers of B. If we get to 4K, we might have to give out some type of prize or something, but make sure you subscribe to 1017 The Truth on YouTube. Also, make sure you give a thumbs up on this post, and also make sure you follow us on Instagram. Listen, I'm going crazy on Instagram right now. I don't know if y'all know this or not. Now, we all got a little ego in us. You got, okay. I'm gonna talk about that after break. That's what my DJ brothers did. He told me I got to talk about it after break. So on the other side, I'm gonna tell y'all why y'all need to follow on Instagram. While your boy is going crazy on Instagram, I'm gonna look at the poll that we have on YouTube. Should MPS be forced to have resource officers inside the school? We're gonna look at that poll,